It's time to talk all things Batman comic books related. We had a pretty big week. Obviously, we had Dark Crisis with a couple of Batman in there, but we do have Batman 124, the final issue of Josh Williamson, on the title. We've also got Batman Killing Time heading down the home stretch. We're in the second half of the story, as well as Flashpoint Beyond #2. And here with me to talk about that is my good friend Josh McDonald. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing well, Wes. It's a nice, sweaty 100 and something degrees outside, but it's a cool like 68 in here, so I'm doing real good. I'm avoiding sunlight today. I'm gonna be like Batman. I'm just gonna avoid sunlight and call it a day. So
if you want to be more like Batman, you need to avoid good storytelling, because this wasn't the best week ever.
No, it definitely was not.
I kind of had some high hopes for it. This is the final issue of Williamson's Batman. Killing Time has been better than most of what we expect from Tom King these days, and then Flashpoint Beyond's been pretty good, although Flashpoint Beyond is fine. Let's talk about Batman 124, the finale of Josh Williamson's very abbreviated run, just to kind of get him over to Chip Zdarsky, who takes over next month. Howard Porter on art. And this is the comic book I don't think anyone ever wanted. This is the biggest waste of time of a comic book I've ever seen in my life. I don't mind them revisiting Abyss because they just kind of drop it so fast to jump into Shadow War and whatnot. But this is not the story I think people wanted, because it's not even Abyss. It turns out it's the detective that Batman met along the way acting like Abyss so she can find the people that kidnapped her parents.
Yeah, it was such a weird like bait and switch, and I don't know. So for me, the first two issues of Williamson's run on Batman I thought were pretty damn good. Like, I was invested, and then that third issue kind of ended that Abyss arc, and it just like, man, it was a dud. Everything fizzled out. Whatever momentum Abyss had, they just dropped it, and they immediately went into the Shadow War arc. And for me, I wanted more Abyss because I thought there was a lot of potential in that character after reading the first two issues. So coming into this, I was kind of looking forward to seeing what they were going to do. Maybe they're going to flesh out who Abyss is, because they never fully like reveal it. It's just some guy that Lex Luthor, did stuff with. So I was like, all right, so maybe they're going to flesh him out so they can have him in the, in the toy box in case they want to pull him back out. And then, nope, it's Detective Kaya, whatever her name is, dressed up as Abyss because she wants to find the man that murdered her parents.
And apparently she's stalking people. She's burnt down buildings, all illegal. Although Batman still wants to team up with her. It feels like a conflict of interest on Batman's part. He doesn't have any problems with her crimes. So they start investigating. They end up in this bar down by the port or whatever, where the person that was contracted to kidnap her parents is there. They do find him, and I guess the resolution is that her parents are dead. They died a long time ago, and they've been buried for quite some time. Pretty anticlimactic as far as figuring out what happened to her parents.
I mean, it seems like the resolution was that she just wanted to find her parents' bodies, and they do, and that's it. That's the story. And then, Josh Williamson packs up a suitcase and says bye and then leaves. I had hoped for something a little more exciting than this. And look, I get that it's supposed to mirror Bruce Wayne. I understand that. It just isn't done well, and it's not very interesting. It is what it is.
Kind of tired of revisiting the iconography and the imagery associated with Bruce Wayne's parents dying, and then she gets the hitman on the ground, and she's trying to kill him, and she's like, Batman, stop me. Are you going to stop me? And he just kind of sits back and doesn't do anything, which doesn't feel like Batman. And I guess his excuse is, well, I've stopped people from killing others in the past, and they always try to kill again, so I just had to let you get through it on your own. I was like, what?
If that's Batman's mentality, he'd probably also be like, well, I've tried stopping villains in the past, and they just go back to being villains, so I'm just going to stop being Batman. It's all right.
They'll work it out on their own time.
Yeah, they'll work it out on their own time. It's something good might come out of this, maybe. Yeah, some people will die, but it'll be fine. It was just weird. And yeah, I hate this whole like, oh, Batman, are you going to stop me? Oh, Batman. And it's I don't know. It was an odd issue. I read it, and I literally read it, and I was like, well, that was a waste of time, and then moved on to the next issue.
I don't mind one-shots, and I certainly don't mind an issue here or there that has nothing to do with anything that's been going on, as long as it's a cool, exciting story that maybe reveals something about the hero, or maybe puts something new on the table. But this was filler in the worst way possible. You could see that Josh Williamson cares about everything in the world other than Batman right now, and he was like, oh, you need me to crap out one more issue before I leave? Here, let me do nothing for 24 pages, and I will say la vie.
I was about to say, it wasn't even a crap out. It was more like he tried to crap it out and then just farted. So
it was a shart of an issue. That's exactly what it was. I'll give this like 1.5 stars because the art is okay, I guess. Yeah. I don't think Howard Porter is specifically a good Batman artist.
No.
The story, I'll go 1.5. Definitely not recommend. This sucked.
No, yeah, I don't recommend it. I mean, it's fine in its own respect. It's just not a good story. There's no meat there to enjoy. So I agree with your scoring.
Yeah, if you want to waste some money, buy Batman 124, or you could waste some money on Batman Killing Time #4 from Tom King and David Marquez. Once again, the story is absolutely spectacular, and there actually are some really cool moments in this, but my goodness, I am so put off by the non-linear storytelling, which I don't think is a bad trope per se, but in the hands of Tom King, it's the worst thing ever. It is so unenjoyable reading this comic book as he skips through time. I don't even remember what happened in the previous issues at this point because I've memory dumped it because I'm so frustrated with the way that he's telling what is, at least to this point, had been a cool story, and now it's just like, fuck it.
You know, Tom King has a habit of falling on writing tropes or techniques and leaning on them too heavily. During his Batman run, he did way too much of the, like, I'm going to have a poem or letter in the background and then have everything else taking place in front of it. And, you know, this is going to be thematic and it's going to reveal this type of underlying story or theme, like whatever. And if you do it once, it's fine. But then when you do it every issue, it's problematic. And that's what he's gotten to now. I think the past like 3 books he's done, he's been playing with time and it's going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And, you know, Tom King, you're not Alan Moore, so just stop. Even the way he narrates this, you can tell it's like, how can I be Alan Moore? And he tries to write it out. And it's just not, it's not good. And there is a good story here. That's what sucks is there's something that's entertaining and interesting, but it's so convoluted at this point that I just don't care.
The real problem is there's really only 3 scenes that are involved in this particular issue. Nigma and the buyer at the diner where Catwoman shows up. And then you have the Batman and the help thing going on at the Tiger Sanctuary, and then you have the flashbacks going back to Greek mythology and whatnot.
Yeah,
and it's too much bouncing around because there's not enough going on. He just should have played the scenes out. The help in Batman is easily the most interesting thing about this. I think the help is probably going to be like a breakout character. This is a character other people are going to want to play with.
Yeah,
and his interactions with Batman and them two teaming up because apparently there's a shared history with Ra's al Ghul and this mystery box that was given to Bruce Wayne during his training certainly adds intrigue and a level of gravitas to the story and why he's in it, and it makes it cooler. But Tom King obviously fucks it up.
Yeah, Tom King had to Tom King, and that was the problem. And, you know, I've always kind of defended Tom King that there's a good writer in there, and you see elements of that here. And you mentioned the flashback with Roz, the Help, and Bruce. You know, Bruce is training, and Roz and the Help are talking. And Roz makes a comment that, you know, at one point I thought you were going to be the heir, but you're not, or you proved me wrong, or something like that. And it was all because the Help spent his life assisting other people. And Roz kind of saw it as you don't have enough self-worth to take this throne, so you're not going to, but he will, referring to Bruce. So I like that element. I like that that's tied in there, and it's like a very thin connection that makes sense without rewriting history. So I'm on board with this. But yeah, the Help, incredible character, really stands out. I think if they had told the story and just kept the Riddler and Catwoman plot and the Batman Help plot in sequential order and then just bounce between the flashbacks, it would have been better. But I still don't understand the point of the flashbacks. Like, I was waiting for the box to come into play, and it didn't.
It has no thematic elements that are similar or seem to tie into the story. It doesn't appear that the artifact that Bruce is looking for with the Help is what is being presented in that story. And I just don't know why it's there. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it feels like it came out of left field, because in the previous issues, there were flashbacks that went back to like old times, but it was tied to the box. And this one had no ties to the box. I guess there was an attempt to make a connection in theme, but if there was, it didn't land well at all.
No, then of course the final part of the story is Nigma, who's been shot in the stomach, I believe in the last issue, and Catwoman need to get to the buyer, and the buyer died. I mean, the Help killed him, I believe, at that cabin. And she's saying, we gave you the money, we don't have the artifact. And he's saying, well, I have the artifact, and you didn't buy it from me yet. You have to buy it now. And they're in this diner, and I don't know, this new character, apparently she's some type of government official, Like, I get the joke that she curses a lot, but it goes on for so long, it loses any type of punch and just becomes annoying.
You know, when you're in like the 4th grade and you like discover cuss words and you're like, yo, I'm cool or I'm badass because I say fuck every other word. That was this character. And I'm like, I just laughed at it. I thought it was pointless, but she literally says fuck like almost every 2 or 3 words or fucking. So it just seemed stupid.
It kind of doesn't make sense to have a character like that in a DC comic because you can't write the words out. It just becomes really off-putting as far as I'm concerned. The lady does get her ass kicked first. I think Riddler breaks her fingers, and then Catwoman breaks her nose, and apparently she's come around and she's going to buy the artifact, and the Help and Batman are on the trail, and that's how they connect. And that's the story, I guess. I don't recommend this one. I am so put off by the ridiculous use of nonlinear storytelling. It's amateur hour with Tom King and using this plot device. It sucks. It's so difficult to read. He removes any ounce of fun from the fucking story.
Absolutely. And we've said this before, but it just kills momentum. Like, it just takes any, like, whatever momentum you have in the plot, it just sucks it right out of there. So
now let's review the very best Batman comic, in my opinion, this week, Flashpoint Beyond #2. Geoff Johns with Tim Sheridan and Jeremy Adams assisting on the writing, Sir Monaco on the art. And this is a heavy dose of Thomas Wayne Batman and his world that he's in, and it turns out the casino's blown up, and there's some kind of funny moments with Two-Face's son who wants to learn how to make bombs, and he tells Cobblepot, yeah, let him make bombs and stuff. Thomas Wayne knows everything is wrong. He's got this board of all the people that have been killed by the Clockwork Killer. Apparently, you know, they're all associated with Barry Allen type time traveling characters. So there's some interesting things going on here. This
book is definitely a slow burn, but it's written and drawn so well that it's just like a breath of fresh air. And I found this issue interesting because they start kind of connecting dots, because part of me was wondering, okay, where are we going to take this? And you start seeing, you know, different elements fall into place here. But yeah, the whiteboard with the different types of time travelers or people that could, I guess, like go through universes or whatever, that was interesting. They kind of land on someone that is still alive because they're all getting killed. And this Earth, there's no connection to those abilities, but on other Earths there are. And then land on one thing that's kind of like a lead that Bruce can actually follow up on, and that is Psycho Pirate. You know, Psycho Pirate's definitely been getting used a lot over the past like 3 to 4 years. And this is probably one of the first times that I've been like, all right, let's dig into this. So it was an interesting take.
Apparently Psycho Pirate is aware, because he's from another multiverse or something, that everything is off, and he knows that Bruce Wayne's supposed to be Batman and kind of all these things. He's written it all over this prison cell. But when he finds him, he's not alive. He's essentially killed himself, although it's probably not suicide. It's been made to look that way.
Yeah, I mean, they make it pretty clear that it's been made to look like suicide. Psycho Pirate, you know, has some random scribblings on his prison cell. I'm curious to see that he said something or wrote something, I can't remember now, but saying that he doesn't believe he's the real, whatever Psycho Pirate's civilian name is for this universe. So I was like, well, that's interesting. But yeah,
there's a lot of clues on there.
There's so many clues.
With a lot of garbage, you know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. Like, there's going to be some red herrings in there trying to throw you off purposefully. And for all we know, whoever killed Psycho Pirate, because I think it's pretty clear he was killed, may have done some of that themselves. It's interesting, and I'm on board, and I want to learn more, and I like the detective aspects, and I like that Batman is actively seeking out information. So it's a good story in my book.
Thomas Wayne is in his Flashpoint Batman gear. He's going through the prison, and someone calls out, and they're like, hey, what have you done with my son? And apparently Harvey Dent's wife recognizes him, knows who he is, and knows that Thomas Wayne is the Flashpoint Batman. And we see her descent into madness, and kind of, does she bash her face in until she becomes Two-Face herself?
Yeah, he's got one of his casino coins there, and she wants to see it. And we know the casino's blown up, so he passes the casino coin to her. And one side is normal, and one side's all messed up. So that was like your first sign, like, uh-oh, Two-Face. She's asking questions, and she's asking about like guilt and responsibility and murders, and you know, she's calling Thomas out for things he might be responsible for. And then she's definitely like a few nuggets short of a Happy Meal, right? So then she starts smashing her face into the glass and cuts it all up and becomes Two-Face. But Yeah, it's just another seed that's kind of planted and where this story is going. And it's just another element that I'm enjoying and curious to see where they take.
Now, the final scene that we get, we finally do see like the real Batman. And he's talking to that little kid with the coonskin hat. And he's looking in the snow globe. And apparently removing the snow globe from the vault has affected hyper time. It's attracting somebody that knows what that artifact is. It is going to be drawn to there, and they're going to be very dangerous. Very brief stuff here, but still quite intriguing.
They mentioned the blue guy, and for whatever reason, all I can think of is Dr. Manhattan. Yeah. Yes. So, I hope that's the case, but who knows? Who knows at this point with DC and what they're wanting to do? They could be throwing a red herring out there and be like, surprise.
We also heard that Psycho Pirate is there to avoid the Dark Crisis. Mm-hmm. It was specifically mentioned. So I do think that they're throwing some things in there meant to throw you off the trails or kind of confuse you as to exactly what is happening in this story. I definitely recommend this one. This is like a 4 out of 5. Very well put together comic book. It's not the most exciting thing. It's not action-packed to the balls to the wall, action on every page. It's a lot of detective work. It's a lot of nuanced storytelling, but Geoff Johns is doing a good job. Hopefully the good writing is helping Tim Sheridan on if he's going to continue working at DC Comics. But if you're going to read a Batman comic book this week, read Flashpoint Beyond, no doubt.
Absolutely.
Tom King obviously has a long history with the Batman character. He was the Batman writer during DC Rebirth. Initially, people quite liked his run, but things changed for the worse along the way, and he just hasn't had a whole lot of luck with Batman ever since. Definitely check this video out if you want to go back in the Wayback Machine, see where Tom King really fell off the rails with Batman, and his Batman journey kind of just went the wrong way.